So this is Jim's weekly garden plan video that we're doing on Friday this season. I want to just kind of go over some of the things that we're doing each week as we lead up toward our frost-free date is around April 15th here in the area, and usually that's about the time I'm putting in annuals and that kind of thing. I'm cutting back the Sestrum Parquet, which we moved last year. If you're following the channel, this was in a spot up near the house, and we moved it up here to the road. And it responded perfectly, got to about 5 feet in height and bloomed literally until it still had some flowers on it, even up until November when we got back from a long trip that we made. It still had flowers on it, and then has since gotten killed back to the ground. This winter may have been actually cold enough to hurt this plant, but this one's old enough that it would not have been hurt by this winter. But see, I cut it to the ground. I want it to be blooming around 5 or 6 feet, and this seems to work about the best. You'll see me break some kind of dead pieces off. That's where I cut it down last year, is to that height, and those pieces just die back to the ground anyway. So this year I'm just cutting it further. This vining plant here, this is our Ruth Bancroft ficus. So the first year we had it, this is a plant that's barely hardy here. It's a combination of Ficus carica, which is edible figs, and Ficus pumila, which is the climbing, related to a fig, but it's a little climbing plant, tends to stick to masonry and that kind of thing. This is the perfect combination of the two of them. It's a beautiful plant. The first year, it was a very small plant. It got killed to the ground, and boy, I didn't think it was going to come back, and it did. It survived. Last winter, it didn't get killed back at all. This winter, it held on for a long time before it finally said, okay, that's enough nights in the 20s and teens, and it went ahead and pretty much died back. Although cutting into this wood this morning, cutting it back to the ground, I can tell that there's still some life even up in these stems. So it even this year didn't get killed back as much. That's a big part of how hardy something is in our gardens, is how long it's been in the ground. You know, so you tell me something is hardy in zone 6 to 9. Well, it might not be hardy in zone 6 the first year it's in the ground without some protection, depending on the winter, right? It just depends on that winter. But then once it's been in the ground for 3 years, now this thing just went absolutely wild this past year. I'm trying to keep it here where we can just direct it up the porch rail every year. It's a super, super interesting plant. There are not many of these. It's just a really cool hybrid of two different plants. It looks like a fig leaf, but in a smaller form, and it crawls around like Ficus pumila, but it doesn't attach itself like Ficus pumila as badly. The stuff is showing you right there. It does root in as it goes. So there are little roots along the stems, and it'll get to moving across the ground. So I want to do a little bit of winter control on it every year. And it'll wake back up here in mid-April and start going again. Still cutting back a few hellebores. I use this pruning knife to cut them back. Cut back most of them in a video several weeks back, but still finding a few here or there. Unburied some, had too many leaves in this area and thinned them out just a bit last week. And as a result, kind of found a few hellebores in the unburying that were waking up, and just going through and cleaning those up. You get those old leaves off, and then look at all those new flowers, new growth that's coming on it. Aspidistra, I'm going ahead and pruning off. This is kind of how they go, is that whatever the worst foliage on them, we cut back. There's a little more foliage damaged this year on our cast iron plants than there has been in the last few years. We kind of expect that in a, what I'm calling just a real winter. I don't think it's been exceptionally cold. It has been below our averages, but it's not, extreme. That along the edge, especially if you're here for the open garden, you know how big this Chinese privet is. That's at the edge of the native garden that the city gave us permission to use. Look, without that back cut, look what happens when you cut off a branch. This is what I've been talking about with using my 3-cut method when you're pruning. I'm trying to destroy this plant intentionally, so the fact that it peeled to the ground, perfect. I'm glad it did damage to it. What I'm doing here is just reducing the size of this thing. I'm going to do this every week a little bit. I encourage you on some of these projects you have where it seems daunting to go out in the garden and just attack it a little bit at the time every week until you win. That's the approach that I'll use uh, with this Chinese privet. Oh, it almost hit me. It almost hit me in the face there when it broke loose. You can see I've got some damage on my face from a cream I'm using to treat some precancerous stuff. That's if you just maybe saw my face for the first time here in the video. That's what's going on there. But I'm basically taking about 20% of this a week until it's done, and we're going to use this material to create some wood chips out of. I got to redo our paths here in the next few weeks with some wood chips, and I'm going to order some on Chip Drop, but I also have a lot of material here that I'm going to use as well. But this Chinese privet ultimately needs to go. I need to get it all sawed down to the ground, and then I'd like to go over here and put my pickup on it and see if I can loosen it up and pull the stump out of the ground. Ultimately, last year we just jumped into this project so fast and did the wood chips and everything, I just didn't get to this part of the project. But this Chinese privet definitely has to go. It's dropping a lot, and I mean a lot of seed onto the ground. I'm leaving these stumps up high like this because I actually want to dig them out of the ground later. So I'm leaving something that I can grab onto when I'm starting to try to take them out of the ground. But that project for another day. But like I say, if you've got English ivy you need to get rid of, or whatever you need to get rid of in your garden, just start on it, and you'll win in time. Again, without making that back cut, it's a good way to destroy a plant, cutting it like this without having that back cut. Again, I'm trying to destroy this one, so I'm glad it peeled. I'm glad it peeled down. But normally, I would have put a back cut there to prevent that peeling that happens when the weight of that branch snaps off. But you can really see how big this Chinese privet actually is. It is a absolute monster. Doing a little bit of pruning on some crazy limbs here and there. So this is a October Magic Ruby camellia. It just gets a little bit of spiky growth sticking up on it. I could do this pruning anytime between now and middle spring. These don't bloom until fall. They typically set their flower buds late spring, early summer. So I've got some time to do this, but while I'm standing there with a pair of pruners, and we're just saying, I'm not giving this thing a crazy pruning, not giving it some big general pruning. If I was going to do that, I might wait a little closer to spring, but if I'm just making 20, 30 little cuts on it like this right here, if I've got time and I've got a pair of pruners in my hand, I might as well go ahead and do it. Quick and easy there. Had one last butterfly bush to cut back. This one is in too shady of a space. It stretches like crazy. Probably will, maybe ultimately something else probably needs to find that spot. Here's an osmanthus that's in a little bit too much afternoon shade, so it stretched last year. And 5, 6 cuts and it's back in shape. I had another osmanthus that was stretching like this in the back garden as well, and we just basically you get 2 feet of growth on it and you take 1 foot out of it. Get 2 feet of growth on it, take 1 foot out of it, and ultimately you'll end up winning, and it'll end up being a very full plant. But you need to get those stretched pieces off. This is a moon dance Hydrangea paniculatas. Hydrangea paniculatas bloom on new growth, so we can cut them in the wintertime. I cut this one down too much last year. I cut it down so much that it didn't come back above the fence, as you can tell right there. So this year, I'm just cutting right below the flowers. I'd like for this thing to bloom so that it can be seen from the street side of the fence and this side of the fence. And last year, it just didn't come back enough for that. So I've learned my lesson. I'm going to leave it about 2 feet tall every winter, and it'll end up about 4 feet when it's blooming. It seems to want to come back about 2 feet. Their Southern Living Plant collection has several Hydrangea paniculatas in the collection. White Wedding is probably the one that you're going to find the most. But if you do see this Moon Dance available, it's such a great little plant. Look how compact that was. You saw how many flowers that had on it last season, and just how compact and full, and how it had held them up big and tall. Keep in mind that thing's had ice and everything on it. I'm showing here that I could cut really close to these buds. You can see where the leaf internodes are. You can see, and I can cut back really cleanly to that if I want to. I typically don't worry about it all that much. Here's stuff. We're doing some seeding, so it's seeding time for sure. Between here at the very beginning of February, as I'm filming this, February 10th, and March 1st, we will have a ton of seeding going on. Our light rack in the room is set up. When I originally built the light rack, you guys will remember, if you've watched that video, that I put in 2 LED lights and I put in 2 T5 fluorescent tube setups. I have taken the LED lights down and bought 2 more T5 units. So now I have a total of 4 T5. I like the fluorescent. The LEDs are more efficient, but I like the heat from the fluorescent tubes. We've had an issue with our seed starting mix the last couple of years being extremely hydrophobic. And we're using several different brands this year. Basically, the companies are digging up the peat moss or making compost or coconut coir, whatever version of material that you want to use, okay? And they're over drying it to the point where, so that they can ship it for cheaper, right? I mean, if they're shipping water in a truck or a train, it's going to cost them more to ship it. So they're drying it out big time. And in the process of drying it out, they're drying it to the point where it's really difficult to re-wet. So we water from the bottom, so we have a solid tray here under our 50-cell trays to soak water up. But we're finding a lot of times now that this stuff material just doesn't want to soak that water up. You can get a wetting agent. There's yucca-based wetting agents, so if you want to use an organic one that you can mix into it and allow the water to be taken up a little bit easier. But again, I've bought 3 different brands this year. Even the professional mixes seem to be over dried now, and it is really hard to over wet them without buying a wetting agent to have it re-soak up the water. But make sure you thoroughly moistened it before you use it. Again, she has how many weeks this particular perennial takes 12 to 14 weeks to be ready. She makes some additional notes on the packets, and then we organize the packets based on that. She'll pour the seed out on that little white piece of paper so she can see the seed, and it makes pretty quick work of it. These are reused, so we will repurpose. So these are annuals that we bought last year, and then we'll just reuse the tags. So we'll recollect the tags in the garden if we've left them out there, and just try to reuse all of them. Here's the light rack in the bedroom. There's 4 rows of lights on here. I'm only showing 2 in this particular video, or maybe a third one. Oh yeah, okay, the third one's down at the bottom. There's a 4th one up above, actually hanging from the ceiling. This is our way of germinating seeds. There's all kinds of different ways, and you can learn all kinds of different ways on YouTube for starting things outside, inside. And there's the light on. Again, it heats up the room a bit as well. And we find that extra heat seems to be super helpful. We can raise these lights up after everything germinates and start raising them up higher. Again, these are all recycled tags. So one side of the tag is from the annual we bought last year, and then now it has what we're planting this year. And so she just tags each row. But we have a lot of trays that we have to do here in the next few weeks, probably as many as 16 to 20 trays. So thank you guys so much for following along. We definitely enjoy making this content, and I hope you enjoy watching it. And we'll be back every week here for the next whatever amount of weeks for the rest of spring, as we show you how we get the garden ready for the open garden event, which you can get tickets over on our website. Thanks for watching.